Welcome back to Whispers in the Dark, the place where real-life nightmares, urban legends, and unexplained encounters come alive. Tonight, we journey deep into the humid, primordial swamps of the Ocala National Forest, where a camping trip turned into a horrifying siege by a creature that shouldn't exist. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next terrifying tale. My cousin, Mark, fancies himself a survivalist. He's the kind of guy who watches every wilderness show, owns military-grade gear, and constantly talks about living off the grid. So when he proposed a real camping trip, I was hesitant. I'm more of a stay-in-the-cabin kind of guy, but he insisted. He wanted to go deep into the Ocala National Forest in Florida, into a section locals call the Big Scrub. We drove for an hour down winding sand roads. The pine trees replaced by a dense, almost tropical canopy of palms and ancient oaks. The air was thick, humid, and heavy. We set up our small dome tent in a clearing near a dark, still-water creek. Mark was in his element, testing his water filter, setting up snares just for practice. I just tried to keep the mosquitoes off me. The first night was uneasy. The swamp has a different kind of silence. It's not quiet at all. It's a constant layered symphony of insects, frogs, and unseen splashes in the dark water. And then there was the smell. It would come and go on the breeze, a thick, coppery, sulfur-like stench, like rotten eggs and wet, matted fur. Wild boars, Mark said dismissively, or just the swamp. But the smell was too rank, too animal. The second night, the symphony changed. We were sitting by the dying embers of our fire when we heard the first knock. It was a deep, powerful thwack, like a baseball bat hitting a massive oak tree, and it came from across the creek. Mark and I froze. The insects went silent. A few seconds later, from a different direction, farther to our right, a second thwack answered it. "What was that?" I whispered. Mark, for the first time, looked uncertain. "Hunters?" he offered. But it was pitch black, miles from any known trail. The sounds were too rhythmic, too deliberate. That's when the smell returned, washing over our campsite in an almost visible wave. It was overpowering, gag-inducing, and it wasn't coming from across the creek anymore. It was coming from the darkness right behind our tent. We scrambled inside, zipping the nylon flap with shaking hands. We sat in the dark, our headlamps off, listening. And then we heard the whoops. It started as a low, deep ooh, then rose in pitch to an almost bird-like ooh-oop, a sound that was half human, half ape, and all terror. It wasn't a roar. It was a call. It sounded curious, almost like it was announcing itself. Mark fumbled for his large Bowie knife, his bravado completely gone, replaced by the pale, wide-eyed look of an animal that knows a predator is near. The whooping stopped, replaced by a sound that truly chilled me to the bone. Footsteps. These weren't the skittering, four-legged steps of a deer or a boar. These were heavy, deliberate, bipedal. Thump. A pause. Thump. It was circling our tent just outside the ring of our dead fire. We could hear it breathing, a deep, raspy, snuffing sound, as if it was smelling the air, smelling us. I had my hand clamped over my own mouth to keep from screaming. It stopped right at the head of our tent. The nylon was the only thing separating us. We could feel the heat radiating from it. The smell was so strong it burned my nostrils, even from inside the tent. And then, it shoved us. It wasn't a paw, it wasn't a claw. It felt like a massive, flat hand pressing against the side of the tent, right where my head was. The entire dome structure bowed inward, the poles groaning, the nylon stretching taut. It pushed with incredible, casual strength, almost collapsing the tent on top of us. Mark and I yelped, scrambling to the opposite side. It let go. The tent snapped back into place. And then we heard a deep, chest-rumbling growl, that vibrated through the ground, a sound of pure dominant power. It was telling us, I am here, I can do this. And then, the most terrifying part. Earlier that day, I had been trying and failing to mimic a cardinal's call, a simple two-note whistle. Now from the darkness just feet from our tent, we heard a whistle. It was deep, resonant, and impossibly loud. It was a perfect, distorted, mocking imitation of the bird call I had been making. It wasn't just an animal. It was intelligent. It was telling us it had been watching, listening. The creature made one more slow, heavy circle around our tent. The footsteps paused at our fire pit. We heard a single heavy thud, and then the footsteps slowly receded, moving back toward the creek until they were gone. We didn't sleep. We sat back to back, knife in hand, until the first gray life-saving light of dawn. When we finally got the courage to unzip the tent, our fire pit was in ruins. The heavy stones we had ringed it with were tossed aside, but that wasn't the worst part. Right where the creature had shoved the tent, pressed 3 inches deep into the damp, swampy earth, was a single, perfect footprint. It was 17 inches long, impossibly wide at the heel, with 5 clear toes. It was a terrifying, undeniable testament to the creature that had inspected, mocked, and ultimately spared us. We left all our gear, ran the 3 miles back to our car, and never, ever went back. Mark doesn't talk about survivalism anymore, and I'll never hear a bird call the same way again. And that's where our chilling encounter in the Ocala woods concludes. A horrifying reminder that the forest isn't just home to bears and boars, but perhaps to something far older, far more intelligent, and far more powerful. What do you think that creature was? A skunk ape? A Bigfoot? Or something else entirely? Let me know your theories and thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story made you feel like you're being watched, please show your support by hitting that like button. To make sure you never miss another whisper from the dark, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. And if you know someone who thinks they're safe in the woods, share this terrifying encounter with them. Until next time, listen closely to the sounds of the night. You never know what might be mimicking you back.